Good afternoon, it's meteorologist Michael Fecka. Welcome back to the 2:30 afternoon weather update. We do this every day here during the workdays and on weekends. We stream it out to all of our streaming platforms as well as to Facebook and YouTube. So if you're joining from either platform, please feel free to leave us a question or a comment. Hopefully I'll be able to go through and answer everything as I go through the forecast, but if not, I'll go through at the very end and answer anything individually for you. But let's start off with a look at our headlines. And first things first, it's gotten pretty chilly out there. Temperatures have only warmed up into the upper 30s to lower 40s across the tri-state, and we even just had a few flurries and a few raindrops kind of move in across the tri-state, just depending on where you were. Over western Kentucky, they saw a little bit of that rain. North of the Ohio River, we got a little bit of maybe even some grapple or a few flurries not too long ago. But all of that continues to push off to our east now, and what will eventually dry out and clear out through the rest of this evening. And then it'll get colder here through tomorrow and even into the start of the work week before we gradually warm back up towards the 50s by the middle and end of next week. And then we're looking at some more rain possible here Wednesday into Thursday. So I'll break down all of those details for you coming up in a moment. But let's take a look at our current radar. There's that little batch of some light rain and even some flurries that moved in here across the tri-state not too long ago. That continues to push off to our east. It appears a little bit more widespread on this particular radar, but a lot of it is actually way lighter and a lot more isolated. So most folks probably didn't see anything or at all or notice it even while you were driving around outside. Even when I was coming into work, I had to really squint to see that there were some flurries falling. So not a huge deal here, not expecting an impact whatsoever, but here's a look at the future radar through the rest of this evening. Clouds will gradually start to break apart here over the next couple of hours from northwest to southeast, so we may see a crack of sunlight before this clears out into this evening. Will remain mostly clear overnight tonight, and then headed into early tomorrow morning, looks like another round of clouds will return. But let's take a look at those current conditions across the tri-state. 38 degrees now in Evansville, same thing there in Huntingburg, 36 out towards Fairfield, and we're still sitting at around 40 in places like Madisonville and even up towards Owensboro. And looking at our 24-hour temperature change, we had a huge difference between the temperatures on Thursday. They topped out in the lower 70s. Yesterday, we topped out right around average in the upper 40s, and now we're kind of sinking below that average line here through the rest of this weekend. So even just comparing it to 24 hours ago, we're sitting at around 5 to 10 degrees cooler across the tri-state, just depending on where you are. But looking at the forecast through tonight, temperatures continue to drop down into the lower 20s, and winds, you'll notice, start to pick back up out of the northwest between 5 to 10 miles per hour, and they get very gusty even as we head into Sunday. So that northwesterly direction continues to pull in that colder air. Temperatures only warm up into the lower 30s tomorrow afternoon, but with the wind gusting as high as 25 to 30 miles per hour, especially in the morning, it will make it feel like we're in the lower teens across the tri-state waking up tomorrow morning. So if you're going to be headed out to church or making your grocery runs earlier on in the morning, make sure you are bundling up and you have that winter jacket prepared and gloves and a hat because these are temperatures we haven't really felt in quite some time. We've been kind of lucky here the last couple of weeks. We've been very warm. But looking ahead to the forecast for our Sunday, again, we're looking at some of the cloud cover beginning to roll in from the north. And along with that cloud cover, we could see even a few flurries or a light snow shower, mainly north and east of the Evansville area. I think the most likely places to see a few flakes even through tomorrow would probably be areas like Du Bois, Perry, Hancock, and even out towards Spencer County. But you can't even rule out a few flurries here in the Evansville area. But again, most of us will stay dry. It'll just be kind of a cool and mostly cloudy day out there. But let's take a look at the snowfall accumulations just to put your minds at ease. Again, maybe some folks pick up a quick little dusting on grassy or elevated surfaces, but I'm not even really convinced that's going to happen either. But the bigger story here is that it is going to be a lot colder tomorrow, and with the winds gusting anywhere between 20 to 30 miles per hour, it will make it feel a lot colder. So let's take a look at those wind chill values. Like I mentioned before, waking up early tomorrow morning, it could feel like we're in the lower teens across much of the tri-state, and then it gets even colder as we head into Sunday night and into Monday morning. We could be seeing temperatures dropping all the way down into the single digits. So it is going to be a very cold start for the work week, headed out to work or school, make sure you still have your winter gear on hand, your gloves, your hat, your winter jacket, and make sure you're wearing multiple layers. But thankfully, this little cold blast is going to be relatively short-lived because we're still outlooked to have at least slightly above average temperatures here through the end of the month and even into the start of March. So let's take a look at our 7-day temperature outlook here. Again, our average highs are usually in the upper 40s, 49 degrees. We are well below that for tomorrow and into Monday. We'll only top out in the lower 30s there with those overnight lows dipping down into the upper teens to around 20. And then southerly winds return on Tuesday, and that's going to help pop us back up to near average into the mid 40s by Tuesday afternoon, and then back up above average by the time we get into Wednesday and through the end of the work week. Now, looking at Wednesday into Thursday, you'll notice those temperatures drop a touch. We do have another system that's expected to move in there, and that will bring us our next best chance for some rainfall. So it looks mostly like this will move in here Wednesday evening and into the day on Thursday before clearing out Thursday evening. And as of right now, it looks like we're expecting just some plain old rainfall, but of course we'll keep an eye on it for any thunderstorms or anything like that. But I think the dew points at this time are forecast to be a little bit too low, and there's not a whole lot of instability associated with it either. But I'll show you what it looks like here on our longer range European model. So we have that little system that is actually passing to our south currently, which is why we saw that cloud cover roll in, a few flakes, a few sprinkles. That system passing to our south is actually going to turn into a monster nor'easter for portions of the northeast. We even have some blizzard warnings in effect for portions of New Jersey all the way up to the New England coastline. I've had people and friends texting me all day long about this system moving in because that's where I used to live, and they're all looking for a different forecast because they don't want it to be true. But unfortunately, it looks like they're going to take another good hit out of that as well. So if you have any travel plans, flights headed towards the northeast, especially along the I-95 corridor, make sure you're keeping a close eye on those flight statuses because they will likely either be delayed or completely canceled Sunday and into Monday. But here in the tri-state, we're not worrying about that this time. We'll have high pressure building in through the end of the weekend and into the start of the work week, so we'll keep dry Monday and into Tuesday, but you'll notice that high drops to our south, and that's when we'll see winds return out of the south Tuesday and through the end of the work week up until this system moves in here Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. So we'll have a warm front lift through, and then that low will kind of shift right overhead there, and that will kind of bring us widespread rainfall across the tri-state. So taking a look at how much rain, again, this will be some earlier estimates. We'll continue to look at the forecast trends here, but we're looking at, in general, anywhere between 1/4 of an inch all the way up to an inch in some spots, especially across western Kentucky. Here in the Evansville area, we could be looking at around 1/2 inch by the end of next week with that next rainmaker. So another good dose of rain here. It's still abnormally dry across the tri-state with even some drought conditions persisting across portions of southern Illinois. So we'll take the more moisture that we can get. But let's take a look at our next 7-day forecast just to kind of wrap it up in a little bit of a bow here, because I know I threw a lot of information at you. But looking ahead here through the weekend, we'll continue to be cold out there. We'll see temperatures dropping down into the lower 20s overnight. We'll only warm up into the low 30s by tomorrow afternoon. But with those gusty winds between 20 to 30 miles per hour, it will make it feel like we're in the low teens tomorrow morning, and it may make it feel like we're only in the single digits by the time we wake up Monday morning. So tomorrow morning and Monday morning, definitely going to be very cold starts, and then winds will come up out of the south, help warming us back up to around average by Tuesday, and then we'll even pop up above average there Wednesday, topping out in the upper 50s, maybe even a few locations near 60 degrees. And then that next system moves in, and we've got more rainfall on the way Wednesday into Thursday, and then it looks like we dry out for Friday and into the start of next weekend. So let me go ahead and take a look at some of your comments here. Looks like Carla has a report for us here in Du Bois. She says there are some flurries there. Joe Smith asking, Evansville is warm today? Question mark. I wouldn't say it was warm, but definitely not the coldest it's been. Carolyn says she's watching from Hobstadt. Thank you for joining us. Chris Smith, always looking ahead to those warmer temps. I'm with you. He says it looks good for next week, and I agree. We've been kind of blessed lately with these warm-ups here and shorter-lived winter blasts. So hopefully this will kind of lead us into a nice warm spring, and winter here will kind of wrap up within the next month. Yesterday was actually a month from the start of astronomical spring, but meteorological spring starts March 1st. So just for a little fun fact for you. But that's all I've got for our 2:30 streaming show here. So I'm going to send you on your way. Remember to tune in to 14 News at 6 on air for the latest news and weather headlines. And then I'll be right back here at 9 o'clock tonight for another forecast on our weather show, and then back on the air again at 10 later on this evening. So hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.